there, lovely listeners. Welcome back to Reasons to Care, the podcast from Diverse Abilities.
We're back with another episode for you, and this time we're talking to the lovely Helen Montgomery, who's the physiotherapist at Langside School.
I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation. We're going to be talking about how the school gets involved with lots of different types of sport. So hi Helen, thanks ever so much for joining us today. So we want to find out a little bit more about the background. So how long have you worked for Diverse Abilities?
So it's 9 years, last month. Yeah, I've been working at the school.
So what did you do beforehand?
So actually I moved down from London where I was working as a paediatric physiotherapist in the community. And then I was pregnant with my second child and we moved down to Poole. So I was about a year out of work and then started looking for jobs and pushed a few doors. And then a friend of mine at church told me, she was a nurse at Langside School. She told me of a physio job that'd come up. So I applied.
So how do you find it different to being in the community as opposed to being in school?
In school, the main difference, I think, is the relationships that you have with the staff. So in the community, I would go in and see different schools, but you show up for an hour, you pop in, you pop out. So that relationship that you can build, you can be there to troubleshoot. If something's not going quite right, they can call you, you can pop down and ask. And I think at Langside, with the complexity of our students that we have there, that's really important. No day is the same. So it's useful to be able to troubleshoot and work together, so you can work together as a team. So never had that in a school before. It would be our physio team, whereas at Langside, you're part of your team with the teachers, team with the other healthcare professional.
It's real partnership working.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, working together to what's best. And I think what's happened is taking on different roles. So you have a few different hats because it's a small school. Mm-hmm. There's not loads of staff. You end up having to take on a few different responsibilities that you wouldn't necessarily do as a pure paediatric physio in the community. You take on different responsibilities, which has been great to learn and see.
In the community, would you have had more people to attend to as well?
Yeah. Yes, you'd have a much bigger caseload. And, maybe we do it in treatment blocks. So you might spend 6 weeks with a child and then they'd have a break and then you'd come back and see them. Whereas we've got the therapy assistants who are great at school. So they're there all the time doing the programs with them, but they can feed back, so it's very dynamic. They can feedback, oh, that's not working quite right, or they're not engaging. Can we try something different? So it's very specific for the children. And I think the children get a better service because of it. Yeah. You don't have a big wait, before you can go back and see your physio.
See somebody if it's not working for them.
Yeah.
So you sort of mentioned about changing hats a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about your role? Mm-hmm. How sort of, I suppose, no day is the same, I can imagine, but how it is a day to day at Langside.
Yeah. So there's the physio stuff you might expect. So doing the physiotherapy programs, assessing their movements, looking at what equipment they might need, giving them programs, the hydrotherapy, the rebound therapy. There's lots of different therapies we offer, which you might see in other schools. I think what's been unique to Langside is I've been taking more of a role with the PE side of things. So looking at different aspects of physical movement, not just your own physical skills, but the social aspect and the different principles of sport. And that's something started exploring around the time of the Football World Cup. Okay. So about December. And Sense, the charity, ran this sensory sport session. It was just an hour's webinar, but it was, for someone who's been working at school for so long, it was mind-blowing. I was like, it just helped me really to think about what does football look like for someone with a complex physical disability. It doesn't mean that they can't access football. It's just that we need to think differently about how we achieve things like passing. That doesn't need to look like passing a football. That can be rolling a ball with your hand to someone else or nudging it slightly, looking at all the different aspects of it, and took that and applied it to football. And then that was with a few group of students. And then we thought, actually, this is something that we could do for all our students. So we kind of split them into different PE groups, and that's gone on. So we're a year and a half in now, and we've done lots of different sports. We've tried to theme it with big events that have been going on at the time, like Wimbledon. We're doing it at the moment. We're looking at tennis and Olympics, linking it with that, hosting a day, and just other things like rugby tournaments. things like that. And cricket. So we had someone from disability cricket, Rob Newton, who's employed locally, and he came along and did a few cricket sessions with me with the children. And we had a former member of staff who does Allow Me to Be Me. She came along and did rhythmic gymnastics sessions with us at school. So we bring a few people in, and because we haven't got enough teachers for someone to be the PE teacher, or the PE lead, it's kind of naturally fallen under the physio umbrella. But I've been really enjoying that different challenge and seeing the joy that the kids get out of it as well. Everybody, no matter how disabled or whatever your needs are, there's something that we can do for everybody to make it accessible. Yeah.
And to feel involved in that part must mean so much to the children, I can imagine.
Yeah, hopefully. I hope so. Yeah, we do. For some children, there was, one lad where it took him a year almost just to accept being in the hall. This was new, this was different. I don't understand what this session is, but slowly but surely he'd stay in the session for longer, or he eventually started getting out of his chair to be able to participate, instead of sitting back and watching. So just that participation in the social aspect of sport, he was willing to join in, explore what's going on. Not every day is progress, you get steps forward and steps back, but really seen lots of different progress in different ways, not just physical skill, but social and the enjoyment that they get from it too. Yeah.
So I think you've obviously spoken quite a bit about the sensory sport. So why do you think it's important for our young people that we support to be involved in that?
I think the sense of achievement. So we make a big thing at the end, the celebration as well. So celebrating the fact that you push the ball off your chair down the ramp, and some of the children get so much joy about that clapping and cheering. I think that's really important as well.
It's that positive feedback, I guess, isn't
absolutely.
it? That I've worked really hard to do this, and now I'm getting that positive feedback from it.
Yeah, and because we've COVID was a funny old time for everybody, wasn't it? And we, one way of managing kind of spread of infection, because our children are vulnerable, is that we very much stayed in classes. So everyone was very much class-based, and they didn't, there's mixing for a few things, but not activities. So we were able to bring different children together to be able to do an activity. So those who've got a limited amount of upper limb movement, we were able to put them together from two different classes, never worked together before, but working on passing a ball backwards and turn taking, and we just hadn't explored that before. So that's, I think you can see the joy that they got from that, being able to, hang on, they're doing it and I'm passing it back. Yeah. It's important for the friendships and the social aspects. So because we have mixed the different classes, we've mixed them according more to their physical ability, because then we're able to tailor the sporting activity better for them so that they can get the most out of it. And because of that, we've got children who are able to interact with each other in a similar way, because that's how they interact. And so cheeky things like passing the ball, or maybe snatching the ball, taking the ball, but where they might be in a class with other students who wouldn't be able to take anything from them, that's a new dynamic. Like, hang on, that's mine. Don't do that. And then actually today's session, someone took it back, and so that understanding of interaction between peers. Yeah.
It's so much more than just football or cricket, or it's everything that kind of wraps around that, isn't it? It's not just about sport.
No, absolutely. And today was tennis. So we got some squirty cream, and we got some strawberry sauce to try and explore, the strawberries of cream of Wimbledon, to be able to feel it, to be able to smell it. Someone tried to wipe cream on another student, just to interact with it and explore it. Yeah. It's not just about hitting a tennis ball over 15, 30, 40 game set match. Yeah, it's much more than that. Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about the Olympics, and recently you've held kind of the Langside Olympics, that's your sports day. Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So that was an amazing day. It was the hottest day of the year so far. So it was very hot and very sticky. And logistics of getting that many children there, 8 buses I think it took to get everybody there for a couple of hours. But it was amazing. They came and represented different countries. We had the flags up. They participated in the different sports. What was amazing at the Treehouse was that it was a massive venue. So we had loads of parents and carers there, and extended family members, grandparents. it was incredible. We can't do that at Langside. We haven't got the space to be able to have all the students and all the family there. So it's the first time I've been at Langside, 9 years now. It's the first time I've ever seen that amount of parents at an event because of the space that allowed for it to happen. And it was incredible to see the families' responses to seeing their children, doing the rugby or climbing or golf that we had set up for the day. Yeah, it was such a fun day. And then to give them a medal to celebrate their achievement at the end that they can keep, forever, a memory, because these are memories that are harder to come by. It's not every year sports day, and COVID certainly stopped a lot of these big gatherings. But it was just
I was going to say, I guess for a lot of our families, they miss out on, or they, could feel like they're missing out on a sports day and seeing their child participate in that and getting something at the end of it. But for you to be able to give them that almost that normal slice of life in what is very different for them. For them, that must really mean so much.
Yeah. We had quite a few parents come up and grandparents just thanking for the effort. Because the staff, amazing, the amount of effort it takes from the nursing team and all the staff to do the normal day-to-day medications and feeds and all that entails in a setting that's not at school. It's harder, you have to think about it. But everyone just gave 100% to make the day work. And even outside of Langside, we had people helping us out when a bus broke down, and just that sense of pulling together. It was just such a special day, even through the hiccups, no problem was too small. Like, well, what can we do to make this work?
And I think that's something we've explored throughout all of our recordings or all of our discussions with people during this podcast, is that we might have talked about supported living, we've talked about children's team, we're talking about Langside, but actually we are all diverse abilities. And I think that's something that diverse abilities does very, very well, is we will lean on each other and call on each other to help. And I think that's something that, diverse abilities should be really proud of, and something that I certainly feel really proud to be part of.
You definitely get that sense of pulling together and the whole no issue is a big issue. We can fix it. We can make it work for the people we support, which I think, diverse ability should be really proud of. We do that exceedingly well.
And I think that just goes to show that ethos is obviously running straight through the core of what diverse abilities does, and staff are all buying into that. So, and we feel it's important that everyone gets to make those achievements and those celebrations.
And amazing from a staff point of view. A family is amazing, but staff getting to go to work and actually, providing support for somebody to achieve, it's massive. That's the interest in sport is big. But I just think it's amazing from a staff's point of view.
So I was actually there on the Olympics day, and being somebody who kind of wasn't part of it, but was just stood back watching, it was so incredible. I kept getting goosebumps, and then I had a little tear because I was like, oh my goodness, so emotional seeing all of the children just having such an amazing time. But then, like you say, seeing the families all being there, seeing the staff all buying in to make it happen. It was an absolutely incredible day.
I'm jealous I wasn't there.
It was so good.
So obviously just Helen talking about the Olympics, I mean, something like that, and I know you touched on that a little bit, but it is a massive thing to plan and organise. Can you tell us a little bit about how that happened?
So meetings, thinking it through. A lot of our children's students are on medications which have to happen at a certain time, so that will determine which bus at what time they can travel. They need to have their feed at a certain time and maybe can't travel on it. So it was trying to work out who could travel at which time. A lot of them have rescue medications, which mean they have to have people who are trained for that medication with them. So if there was a child that was off, we couldn't just simply swap. We had to think about the staffing skill level. So it just took a lot. I met with Amy, who's the lead nurse at school. She helped me think through what would work. Nikki was great at working out about snacks and feeds, and we tried to make sure that everybody was there to be able to have those who needed a snack were there early to have their snack. So it was lots of different factors, and Langside, as a typical day at Langside, requires planning, just to fit in physiotherapy. But when you're trying to do it off-site in a different environment, when you haven't got all your resources around you, just had to really just think through the whole day in great detail. And you're always going to miss something. There's always going to be something, I forgot about that, or they're going to get back, they need to be back early because they're leaving school early. But everybody in school is so great at knowing our children so well that you just can't do it individually. You have to work together as a team. And even when we created the plan, I sent it out and I was like, look, but tell me, the children's daily timetable, where do you see clashes? And a few people were able to come back and we could try and move some people around. So I think the only way it works is together as a team. Yeah.
And it just goes to show that anybody listening to this, it wasn't just a sports day. It wasn't just the sport that you had to take into account. And it was everything else around that, which is by, no mean feat, is it?
And don't underestimate the parent-staff race as well. That was good fun. So that was at lunchtime.
I can imagine that could have got a bit feisty.
I can't remember actually who won. That's terrible, isn't it? Parents or staff? Reluctant volunteers.
Yeah, I can't remember now.
I can't remember who won.
So each episode, we pull notes out of our happy jar. So Helen, over to you. We're going to be asking you now, what is one of your happiest memories from your time at Langside?
The thing that makes me smile most at school, I reckon, is the physical activities that the children get joy out of. So we've got hydrotherapy or aquatic therapy, as it's known. We've got a hydrotherapy pool at school and we've got a trampoline, which is where we do our rebound therapy. And these are two activities that we do at school with the children. We try and access it once a week, that they can get on and experience movements that they just can't when they're static. So in their chair, it's very static, got a lot of gravity acting down upon you in standing frames or on the mat. What you see is when they get into the pool with facilitation, that any small amount of movement that they are able to generate, it creates a much bigger movement. So that smallest movement of their trunk or their body, as they twist it, can create a turn, if you support them in the right way. So that feeling of weightlessness and movement, and the same on the trampoline as you're bouncing. We often see children's tone, relax, giggling, laughing. It's got a few adrenaline junkies at Langside as well. And, when they are so dependent upon adults and they're strapped into their chair, you don't get that feeling of that rush.
Yeah.
And we see heart rates go up. We see they're breathing faster because they're working. It is exercise because they're not moving in that extreme way. So, to see the fun that we can offer the children by doing these activities that you can't do day to day. That's definitely one of the happiest things about working at Langside.
It's amazing that Langside is so lucky to have those resources available, such as a hydrotherapy pool and the trampolines, because, as you say, it makes such a difference for the young people we support.
Difficult to find that in adults as well. So to have it, the children, but we trying to find that in adults, it can be challenging.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that somewhere we get an opportunity to do that for the people we support, definitely.
Yeah. And we do have a few people from different services, so Shapes and Beehive, come and use the pool in the afternoon. But as we're growing, which is great, we're seemed more students since I started. It's trying to fit everybody in. But we still, at the moment, do have a few people using the pool.
So each episode, we have our Mythbuster. So we're going to ask you, Helen, what you think about this myth. I think you're going to be the best person to answer this. So our myth is accessible sports are hard to access and not always open to every disability.
Not true.
I think you may have already told us this.
Yeah.
You've proven this one.
Yeah, we can pass, we can explore, we can feel, we can see, you can smell, you can hear. You can hear the ball bouncing over the net. Yeah, so sport is open to everybody, any sport. That's been the biggest challenge, is to try and make every sport fit. Hardest challenge for me, rhythmic gymnastics. Not a gymnast myself. Give me a team game and I can adapt that. But I reckon there's not a sport yet I haven't found that we can't make accessible for the students at Langside.
And I have found today so interesting because although I wouldn't agree with that myth at all, because I know that we can always find a way around it. However, I'd never really thought about the aspect of even just being able to very gently pass a ball to someone else being considered as a sport. But you've really opened my eyes today as to what could be classed as a sport and how actually we can make these things so accessible to people with even the most profound disabilities.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I think from a sort of family's point of view as well, like that breaking down that barrier, oh, my child will never be able to do sports day, but yet, you've had the Olympics, like that hopefully will educate not just families but other people as well into thinking a little bit more about when they're doing sporting events, how to make it accessible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so my note from the Happy Jar is about a session that we ran at Rockley Water Sports in Poole Park. I was actually there for this session. It was the first time I was brave enough to actually get on a kayak myself. So we'd sent all the young people out with their staff, and I'd been chatting to the Rockley staff, and I was like, I really want to do it, but I don't know if I'm brave enough. So one of our young people that we were supporting was actually really confident on the water. So they decided to send me out with him, and they put him at the front of the kayak and me at the back of the kayak so that he could take the lead and show me what to do. But that ended up with him paddling me out to the middle of the lake.
Well, I don't know how I
towards the fountain. And I was like, no, turn around, because I was panicking. But he had the best time. And when we eventually did make it back to dry land, I was really proud of myself. But I really had processed the fact that actually we were meant to be looking after him, but he'd actually supported me to do something and had supported me to achieve something that I really wanted to do, but just was never brave enough to do it. But with his support, I managed it. And it was just really weird, like flip, because we're meant to be the ones enabling them to do exciting activities. But actually it was him that supported me to be brave enough to get on that kayak and get out on the water. And
enabled him to give you the confidence to do that. Like
it was a really weird situation, but I shall never forget it. And all the staff were all cheering for me because I was so nervous about doing it. And when we actually got back to the office, they made me a little Blue Peter badge to be like, you achieved something. But actually, he achieved something too, because he took me, who was terrified, out onto the water. So it was amazing day.
Massive confidence in him to be like this, this nervous person. They're allowing me to go out. Yeah, absolutely. But also, and for you as well, being at work and achieving something like that.
I'd always wanted to kayak, but I was just never brave enough to do it. Never thought I would. And then, just rocked up to work one day and I was like, I'm going to do it. And like you say, I was at work and still managed to achieve something really amazing with the support of one of the people we look after.
I love it. Okay, so my happy note is from two gentlemen that we support in supported living, big AFC Bournemouth fans, and there was a match up in Manchester against Manchester United, and with the help of team leader and staff, they were able to go up to Manchester United, which for anybody, I suppose any one of us who doesn't have a disability, we'd think, that's all right, it's Manchester. But actually, the organisation of that,
the logistics of it.
Logistics. And they managed to get on the bus and go up and be with the fans and watch the show, watch the match, which was amazing. And again, how much planning goes into that. And just tick something off their bucket list. Neither of them had been to Manchester United before, so lovely. It was really nice to see.
It's so incredible that we get to give those opportunities to people, isn't it?
And we have staff that are like, okay, I'll do that, even though, it would have been at least a full day's work. But actually, the joy that they came back with, they were just amazed by it all. And then that sense of hearing and feeling, being in the crowd, being part of it must have been amazing.
I think it's something I know we've talked about before and we will probably talk about again and again. And it's about that memory making, isn't it? And sometimes we always forget that whilst we're so busy making memories for other people, the people that we support, actually what we don't realise we're doing is we're making those memories for ourselves as well, that will stay with us forever. And we will talk about them as we are doing now. We'll talk about them again and again and again, and what a privilege that is.
Yeah, definitely. We're very lucky. You don't get that in any other job, really, do you?
No.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Helen. It's really opened my eyes and been really insightful. And hopefully to our lovely listeners, they'll be able to take a little bit away and think a little bit more outside the box, maybe.
Absolutely.
No, thank you for having me.
It's so interesting. Being in adult services, we don't always know what's going on day to day in children's services and how much support actually goes in to the children at Langside School.
And it's really heartwarming to hear all the fantastic stories about how the children at Langside get on with different therapies and sports.
So that's all from us this time, but join us next month for another tale from Reasons to Care.
In the meantime, don't forget you can check out our vacancies at diversabilities.org.uk/careers.